My name is Julie Woessner. I'm the National Policy Director for CASA, which is the Consumer Advocates for Smoke-Free Alternatives Association. For those who may not be familiar with my organization, we're a U.S.-based NGO. We were formed in 2009, and we advocate for those who currently use or who in the future may choose to use low-risk alternatives to smoking. And we're pretty dedicated to the proposition that consumers, smokers and non-smokers alike, the general public deserves truthful information and access to these low-risk products. Currently, we advocate for users of vapor products, low-risk smokeless tobacco, which would include snus, and heat-not-burn, which is not available to U.S. consumers currently. We have about almost 250,000 members in the U.S., and they come from all walks of life. So here today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about our testimonials collection. We started our collection in 2013, and we had always anticipated the possibility of doing some research with it, but really what it was about was trying to address this constant refrain that there was no evidence or only anecdotal evidence that vapor products actually help people quit smoking. And so that was kind of the genesis for the project. And over time, we've collected more than 11,000 testimonials, which is pretty significant. And the thought was that, perhaps it's easy to take a few hundred testimonials scattered all over the internet and dismiss them as anecdotal. It becomes a little bit more difficult when they're all collected in a single data set. Some of our testimonials are short and sweet. Others are pages and pages long. Some of them are beautifully written, would make you weep. Others are raw, rife with misspelling. What they have in common is they're all authentic and they're completely unscripted. So I'm going to kind of go through the next two slides very quickly because this isn't a science session, and I'm not a scientist. I'm more interested in the data. But basically what we're talking about with our testimonials project is we're doing a proof of concept here. And the idea is, how can we analyze a huge amount of data, a huge amount of data, and try to make some sense of it and get some information that can be used in an evidentiary fashion. Dr. Brian Carter, our Director of Scientific Communications, is going to be doing a deep dive, so this is just our little proof of concept discussion here. We had, I guess, 1,000 records that we randomly selected, and we wound up using 994 of them, and things got tossed like if there was corrupted data or whatever. All right, so I'm on natural language processing techniques, which I'm going to skip through, but anybody who's really interested in the methodology, feel free to grab me, because I'm happy to talk about it, put you in touch with the people who know far more than I do. But time is limited, so we're going to get right to the data. The first analysis that we did is we looked at sentiment analysis, and sentiment is the overall tone of the testimonial. And not surprisingly, the testimonials tended to be pretty overwhelmingly positive. Now, when you see negative, that doesn't mean, oh, I don't like vapor products. The negative sentiment is testimonials that focus on, you're taking my rights away from me. Why are you, doing this to me? Government is bad, some really interesting ones. But overwhelmingly, we're looking at some pretty positive testimonials. Doing a little bit deeper dive, we then looked at some topics, trying to get some idea of what was going on with some of the positives and some of the negatives. And what we did was we came up with some general topics. And again, I want to say this is very much proof of concept and trying to explore to what extent we can create data from all of this information. When you look at the composite results, you're going to see that the health and quit experience are kind of right there at the top, the most popular topics in the positive categories. Altered smoking perception was an interesting one. That popped up pretty high on the list. And the idea there is that vapors report that smoking now tastes bad to them. smoking now smells bad to them. And, these feelings that they had previously enjoyed cigarettes, now not so much. We also see regulatory concerns and flavors coming in on the testimonials, and then talks about hope and gratitude, which we'll get to in a moment, and smoking history and could not quit. And the smoking history would be people talking about, I smoked for X number of years, and then the could not quit, that showed up quite a bit. Not surprisingly, a good number of our members are repeat quitters. People who really had tried repeatedly to quit, never with any success until they hit vapor products. Okay, so now we're drilling down into the quit experience a little bit. And this is actually one of my favorite slides because we're seeing two things. Quitting was unexpected and quitting was easy. How many FDA-approved cessation techniques have unexpected quitters? Where people just, wow, I didn't intend to quit. And, it might sound like a strange thing, but we do get a fair number of people who will try vapor products because, a family member tells them to do it, a friend exposes it to them, and they don't really think that they're going to quit, but, what the hell, might as well try it. Or the people who aren't looking to quit, but they're looking for something that they can use maybe in a non-smoking area, maybe use a little bit discreetly, or maybe even cut down on the amount of cigarette smoke. And guess what? They find out that ultimately they wind up completely transitioning away from smoking. So we think that's pretty interesting. The ease of the quit experience is also certainly not going to be a universal experience, but it is a pretty significant one among our testimonials. And again, I would compare and contrast that to some of the NRT discussions. Was it Nicorette that years ago had that campaign? Quitting always sucks, but Nicorette makes it suck less bad. We never hear vapors say that. They never say that. They talk about how delicious this is. But I do want to be a little bit careful when we talk about cessation, because that's a very pharmaceuticalized term. And, what we're talking about is people who have just completely replaced their smoking habits. This one was an interesting one, too. You will hear vapors talk all the time about how vaping saved my life. Vaping saved my life. And so we expected that the vast majority were going to be those kind of sentiments. And in fact, what we found was the dominant expression was hope. Hope for others who might also be struggling to find a solution to get away from combustibles. I'm going very quickly here. Health reporting, I don't think this is all that surprising. The biggest thing that people were reporting is more energy, which we think is, like I said, not all that surprising. Coughing, though, the reduced coughing, that is a big one. Regulatory concerns, this is drilling down into the negative sentiments that we were talking about earlier, and we find that 75% of those negative sentiments in the regulatory category involve don't take them away and stop the bans, because, in the U.S., vapors are beleaguered at the federal and state and local level. In terms of our future work, like I said, this is a proof of concept, and we're looking forward to Dr. Carter's upcoming work, which hopefully will be out this year. But the idea here, stay on my time track here. We do believe that the testimonials provide a genuine and informative glimpse into a unique population. I mean, we can't look at our members and say that they are the typical vapors. These are the people who, by and large, have switched completely, and that is not, sadly, yet the typical vapor. But there's a lot to learn from the people who have made the transition, and we're hoping that we can do some work in order to create data so that we're no longer dismissed as anecdotes and instead looked as an important source of information. With that, thank you.
Very good.